All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Faces of Business. I am your host, Damon Pistolka, and I am excited for our guest today because I have none other than Anthony Franco here with us today. And we're going to be talking about how to be a great business founder. Anthony, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, this is going to be really interesting, Anthony, because this is the first time I ever talked to somebody prior to meeting you on our last few calls is that help people actually learn how to be a better founder. So let's talk
Oh
about
wait,
that.
I'm really confused. I thought I was here to learn from you. Wait,
Not for me, man.
you have the wrong guy.
Because really it's an interesting topic because there's so many founders. We see them in startup founders, even well-established businesses. Those founders are still in them. It could be a multi-million, could be $50 million business,
Yeah.
still run like the day they opened it up, other than it's a lot more people or whatever. But let's hear a little bit about your background and how you really evolved to the point that you said, I want to help people become better founders.
Well, so I'm by trade a serial entrepreneur, which makes me unemployable. I essentially I launch, scale, and exit businesses and help other founders do the same. That's really what I do. That help other founders do the same is a relatively new venture. I've found that my joy comes from hanging around other batshit crazy entrepreneurs, and it's essentially it's my hobby, and I do How to Founder with another community founder member just like me, and we just gravitate towards wanting to be around other people like us, and we wanted to see if we can make a career out of it. Just do this for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about your background a little bit. You said you started out launching, scaling, and exiting your own business. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I've started and exited. So I've started 7 companies, exited 6, 2 to public companies. I have done that as a solo entrepreneur and as a co-founder. So I've had partners and done it solo. Way better to do it with a partner. I know horror stories exist, but it's way more fun to have somebody else that you're doing it with. Generally speaking, I've started a restaurant, a few technology companies. So I'm by trade a software developer. Started a CPG manufacturing company, and that 7 that I started doesn't include How to Founder. So I guess you could say I've started 8. Yeah, my largest business was 150 folks, 8 figures.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, so a very eclectic mix of kinds of businesses that I jump into.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You look at restaurants, tech, and the CPG. What kind of CPG, roughly, kind of company was it? I mean, because that's a lot different.
It's a lot. And manufacturing is like CPG is a little bit different, but we manufactured our own products.
Okay.
The company is still around, and it's called MC Squares. Actually, had to shut the factory down, but still selling products and pulling those in from contract manufacturers.
Yeah.
And it's reusable office products, tacky
Very cool.
markers, that kind of stuff. So
Very
in
cool.
the office supply space.
Yeah. So in starting these 7 companies and then starting your 8th company, How to Founder, what are some of the big things you've learned on how to founder?
So How to Founder is more about what not to do. So I have a lot more things that I know what not to do. The fundamental issue with being a founder is it's incredibly lonely. And you know, you run into, first of all, if you're a good founder, you're doing something that's never been done before, and you've never done it before. So there's not a lot of support, and if you have employees, you can't go to your employees and say, "I have no idea what I'm doing here."
Yes.
And if you can't go to your investors, you certainly can't go to your spouse.
Yes.
And so there's nobody to talk to. So How to Founder really started with this notion of we want to first help give a reference manual, for lack of a better term, of the things that you need to have a good mental model for. And that starts from everything from, what is work-life balance, if there's such a thing, all the way down to, like, our podcast this morning was about, what business entity do I choose? So it's very tactical. It's very much how to founder.
Yeah.
And we're also doing things here locally currently on doing community events that are in person. We're doing founder peer groups. So helping solve not only the complete void of knowledge on how to do stuff, things that MBA professors won't teach you how to do.
Yeah.
And putting you around other people like you that you can have honest, genuine, authentic, vulnerable conversations with.
Yeah, I think as founders, you mentioned the lonely. Most founders don't understand that until they're in it and realize that you can't. Well, you can talk to your investors, you can talk to your employees and your spouse, but it's not a good idea in a lot of cases because there is a lot of unknown, and most people are not ready for that kind of risk.
Yeah.
Especially
exactly
your friends and family. I mean, that's where you see a lot of it. And you can just do a couple of YouTube searches and you'll have 100 people that'll tell you about never tell your friends or family your real dreams because they're just trying. But yeah, so it's funny. Heather dropped a comment. Lonely is so resonant. Yep.
Yeah. There's a reason why we suffer from higher rates of depression, suicide, divorce, mental challenges. There's a reason for that, and that's because of the fact that we're so alone.
Yeah. Yeah. And adding the things that you're doing with the peer group, the communities, and really giving founders a forum where they can build relationship with other founders that are in similar situations that they can talk to is very powerful.
So this is a brand new venture for me. We literally started 1 month ago.
Nice.
Already it's the most traction I've seen from anything that I've ever done. Just there's so much need. We're getting not only founders, and we have a pretty good network here in Colorado of founders. We hope to make this a national thing, but right now we're starting here locally.
Yeah.
And we're also getting some really great traction with people that want to write us checks just to help other founders, like scholarships for peer groups and cities wanting us to apply for grants to train founders. So it's been an incredible journey just over the last 30 days. I can't wait to see where we go with it.
Yeah. Well, the startup community, Denver's a big startup community, and we'll talk about that. You mentioned the big event that's coming up there. I want to talk about that. But, a lot of these cities have vibrant startup communities. It's more common than you realize. And it is, as you said, it's important for the communities because they continue that new business development. They give people good jobs with these new startups, and it gives. I mean, when you look at the startup community or the founders that are making these new businesses, and you look at the big publicly traded, you sold a couple of your companies to publicly traded companies. I mean, that's where I believe anyway, and I could be drastically wrong, but it used to be anyway. That's where the real innovation comes from. These small companies are creating these innovative ideas, and then a lot of times their exit is to a larger company that uses it, or to a public company, like you said. And this is an innovation engine for our country.
I 100%. We say Founders are the pioneers of economic prosperity, and we're here to equip them for the journey. That's really, you nailed our tagline right out the gate there.
I'm writing that down. Founders are
Okay.
the pioneers for economic prosperity. That's great. Yeah, it is. So we got Ruth stopped by and said, "Hey, great to be able to join you all." She also said, too, that is incredible testimony on sponsorships. It is really, when you get the sponsors coming in that early, you want to help because they do see the economic development that happens from these startup companies and how they do. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. So as we move along, we talked about it's incredibly lonely. So what are some of the things you said you like to tell people what, or help people with what not to do? Let's move in that direction then. So I'm a founder. I'm thinking about starting a company. What are some of the things that we don't want to do?
I actually have a story about this. Somebody came up to me once and said, I'm thinking about being a founder, and I told them not to. I told them don't do it. And for all the reasons that I've already mentioned. It's lonely, it's higher rates of suicide, higher rates of depression. You are going into a market that against people that have more resources, more traction than you could ever hope to have. The likelihood that you're going to fail is incredibly high. So the first mistake a lot of founders make is they actually decide to be a founder. And I think I say that with a lot of love, because the truth is if out of one conversation I can talk you out of it, I've done you a favor.
Yes.
It's because if I can talk you out of it, then you shouldn't start. There are the few that look like I have no idea what I'm talking about. They're not going to listen to me. Great. You're the founder. Like, you're the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
If I can talk you out of it, you're probably not. And that's fine. Most unknown truth, most entrepreneurs that have been doing it for years are envious of normal people with normal lives that have normal hobbies. We're jealous of you. We don't understand why anybody would want to do this other than they have no other choice. So the first, to answer it again, the first rule is don't start.
Yeah. Decide not. Yeah. And it's a great point, because if you having a conversation with somebody could deter them from being a founder, they certainly don't have it in their blood enough to be a founder, because they are going to get punched in the gut a lot of times as a founder. Like you said, you're going up against people with more resources, more traction in the market, and a lot of other things that you're going to start out without. So,
and then the second thing I would say, the common founder mistakes are, I see this a lot with people coming from a corporate job into being an entrepreneur, and that is expecting the support that they have, the similar support that I hear about this all the time. Like, you're interviewing somebody for a job and they say, what kind of support will I have in this role? And as a founder, you have to tell them what kind of support you are. But if you're a founder looking for support, there is none. So believing that there's a support structure for you is another mistake. A third mistake that I see often is doing the things that feed your ego versus doing the things that feed your business. You are both the center of the attention and can't be the center of attention for your business. You can't do it for the same reasons that you do almost everything else in your life. You have to exist for the business's sake, not the other way around. And that is a very common mistake. Another very common mistake I see is founders listening to advice. Ironically, I can't tell you how many times a founder said that they did something because an investor told them to, and it didn't work out, and they were blaming the investor. It's like, no, that's on you. You did it. You have to justify it to yourself and to your employees and to your investors. Saying that somebody told me to do it is not a reason to fail. It's
Yeah.
not.
Yep. Yep. And that is, you know, as a founder, you have to be able to accept 100% responsibility, even if the market turns and everything else, because that's the only way you're going to
When
be able to
things
do it.
go wrong, it's entirely your fault. When things go right, you have to share it.
Yeah.
That's
There
it.
you go. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Um, it's one of these things, I think, that as you go into it, you do develop a, I don't know, a tolerance for it. Do you find that, like, you've been through the founder process multiple times now? Does it feel normal to you anymore?
Um, oh, it's a really good question. I've lost my sense of normalcy, so I'm struggling to answer the question a bit. Um, the the I'm happiest in chaos. So I would say I was asked a question once. What makes you lose sleep at night? Um, and I said if things feel good, I lose sleep because it means I'm missing something. And so I think that sense of this weird dichotomy of being an optimist that you're going to succeed and completely paranoid that you're going to fail, that is where founders should live all the time. That's normal. And so if you lose that, you lose your edge, and all of a sudden you lose what you're working on anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. The dichotomy of believing you're going to succeed and the paranoia of thinking you're going to fail at every turn.
Yeah, yeah. It's this weird thing that we have to deal with.
Yes. Yes. And it is often the truth. I mean, your belief is the only thing that gets you there, and you can get chopped down at any moment in the early years. That's for sure. So as you're seeing this over time, and I know you're just launching How to Founder, you're getting that going, but over the years as a founder, what have been some of the best resources, best things you go, wow, that really helped me as a founder?
Uh, so for sure, being around other founders, I put that at the top. Talking to other folks that have done it, and just asking for help, not being afraid to ask for help, and not even help, just, hey, I want to talk through this thing with you, and just getting a second set of eyes on it, very helpful. A book that I talk about all the time there's a couple books that I absolutely loved the Elon Musk biography. That was brilliant. Now I know he's a stereotypical entrepreneur that everybody talks about, but there's a reason he's so successful, and that book really kind of unwinds a lot of that. The other one is kind of a strange one. It's a book called Strengths Finder, and it's a really easy read, and it kind of tuned me into being comfortable in the things that I'm good at, and being comfortable in surrounding myself with other people in the things that I'm not. It also has a lot of analogies to, or analogs to the traction, the entrepreneurial operating system, and the visionary integrator dynamic.
Yep.
And so being okay with not being good at all the things you need to be good at, really kind of changed my perspective and opened my eyes quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Because it is one of those things where you're not going to be great at everything. And sometimes as a founder, or it's just worth it having somebody else that's good at it do something rather than you try to do it, because you're going to waste time and not do it well as it needs to be done. I think that's the thing that really is tough when we go, because we're, 9 times out of 10, you're cash strapped or time strapped. In cash or time, you're deficit of one of both of those every single day.
Usually
And,
both. Yeah.
yeah, usually both. And so I'm going to try to do everything. Well, if I'm not good at something and I'm trying to do it with not enough resources, I'm really going to do it poorly. And that's where you run into trouble, I think.
There is one thing that all founders need to be good at, and that's sales.
Yes.
You have
100%.
to be good at sales.
100%. Yeah, that is surprising to me because there's a lot of founders that don't understand that.
Yeah.
And they start a business and they don't last in business long because of that.
It is almost a cliche about founders starting a great product and not being able to sell it. It's a cliche as an entrepreneur. Great idea, great execution on the idea, great product, and it sits on a shelf.
Yeah. Yeah. And conversely to that though, there's been a few things. I watched something about the space race, some Netflix documentary here a while ago, last week or something. And there are some CEOs in there that are alongside SpaceX and some of the other ones around the world. And you listen to them talk, and they're founders. Yes, they're getting lots of investment now on these kind of things, but there's a whole different level of confidence and belief in their success for some founders, I think, and the ability to sell, because I'm the ability to sell that allows them to go from 1 to 1,000, where a lot of us are still trying to go from 1 to 5 to 10, 1 to 2 to 5 to 10, because their belief is just their thought process is that they're thinking big, or whatever you want to look at, a cliche and book. They think at a different level that goes, hey, we're here. And it's amazing to see. And they're not all successful, right? There's a lot of go down in flames like everybody else, but it really is interesting to listen to the people talk. And like you said, the Elon Musk autobiography, to really hear how some of these founders that have done it like that, the way they think.
Yeah. So of all the things that I said, the reason not to be a founder, and all the things that are stacked against you, the thing that you have going for you is exactly that. And the thing that your competitors don't is the belief in what you're doing. And that is incredibly powerful. Their employees don't have that. Your employees won't have that, by the way, either, which is why it'll make you'll be a better salesperson than anybody else will, is because you have that fundamental belief. When you lose that belief, it's time to exit. Period.
Yeah. Yep. And you can see that when people stay around too long after that too.
Yep, exactly right.
Yeah. So what is the most fun you have being a founder?
So I like getting in the weeds. I like figuring. So every founder will tell you that they like solving problems. And so when I'm helping a brand launch with launch partners, or I'm helping a founder figure out a hairy audacious goal, or a really crazy negotiation problem, that's the most fun. The operational stuff, I know a lot of founders get into, like loving spreadsheets, and don't get me wrong, I love a good spreadsheet, but it's not where I want to spend my day every day.
Yes.
So it's solving the complex, the navigating the unique. So the most fun I have is when I'm doing something I've never done before, without a doubt.
So as we're looking towards how to founder and in this kind of environment, are you thinking that AI is going to be a huge disruptor in the founder community, or is it really, once we get things going, it helps us be more efficient yet, or after that?
Yeah, AI's. So I have some experience in the AI space. One of my really early exits was in the AI space.
Okay, great.
Uh, AI is one of those things. So any new innovation comes along, people panic that it's going to. The printing press was an evil thing that came out that everybody was afraid it's going to take jobs. It was going to
Mm-hmm.
ruin society. So AI is no different. The difference is what I'm a little worried about is the pace of at which innovation will happen with AI, and
Mm-hmm.
are we ready for it? So I don't know. I want to be able to predict that. I'm not sure. I do think, in a general sense, and I'll talk about it as a founder specifically, but in a general sense, there will be a point at which AI gets so advanced that it will stop being advanced because we won't know how to leverage it. It'll be it'll make better decisions than we would, but since humans control the implementation of those decisions, we'll screw it up. So there'll be a plateau.
Yeah.
They'll just because we just won't have the brain capacity to understand why the AI made that decision and really trust that it's the right decision. I think we'll get there. Now, for founders in particular, what I found interesting is some folks are talking about this now that teams teams are going to get a lot smaller, and there's going to be a lot more startups that aren't AI startups, but they leverage AI at its core to help them deliver faster, better, cheaper. So I don't think it'll replace jobs. It'll replace people that use AI will replace people that don't, for sure.
Yeah.
And I do think it'll allow companies to operate that used to need 100 employees to be able to operate very efficiently at 20.
Mm-hmm.
So that sounds like you're going to lose jobs, but now instead of having one employer with 100 people, you're going to have 5 with 20. That's
Yeah.
so I think it's just going to increase. It's going to exponentially increase the rate at startups launch, and be able to pivot for customer. So I do think that we're going to see a lot more startups because of AI, and not AI companies. Like How to Founder isn't an AI company, but you
Yeah.
better believe we leverage the hell out of AI.
Yeah. Well, and it really, I think that comes back again to fundamentally what AI can do that we can't, and it can comprehend things in different dimensions and different detail levels that we can with as humans, and it will identify areas of opportunity as founders to explore, and then you could say, yes, this might be something that we want to try.
Yeah,
And
it's ideation, like that early stage, like give me 10 ideas. It's great at that. 6 of them suck.
yeah.
2 of them are ones you thought of, and 1 or 2 of them you're like, wow, I would have never thought of it that way.
Yes.
So it's really good at that, and it's just going to keep getting better.
Yes. Yes. And I like what you say about the teams getting smaller and leverage AI to go faster and better, cheaper. It's a natural progression, and I think you're right too in that those teams, their productivity will be better, and we're going to see that companies are going to use AI because they already are, but they're going to continue to use that, especially at the small company level, to be able to go farther, faster with the existing people, to really maximize their potential before they need additional investment. I mean, that's the thing that's really, I noticed a
Yeah.
lot in the startup community. It's like some of these companies now you look at and you go, it's really a shame that you're sitting here saying you must have investment at this point, because from a founder standpoint, we're always doing the trade-off of, do I want an investor, or do I want to create more wealth for myself, not have the investor that I've got to deal with at this point. um and is it really my best opportunity now? Because there's points, if you start too early or you start too late, you miss these good windows where it's the right time to take an investment in. And I think it's a shame when I see people that want to do it too soon. And you think about how leveraging AI with smaller, more efficient teams may allow them to get a little farther, where they can actually, I don't know, realize a better return on their effort in the beginning, because it's really tough if you get into the investment world right away.
Well, um, we danced a little bit around this thing called investment, right? And I, I'm struggling with something like I'm having this love hate relationship with VCs right now. Is Peter Thiel in particular? Um, because he has that 0 to 1 book where he talks about you either need to have a monopoly or be 10 times better than anybody else. You need to be first with a monopoly or be 10 times better.
Yeah.
And that is true in the VC world. But I think the VC world has really stained startups in a very big way. Because, one, you don't need to be a unicorn. VCs almost exclusively focus on unicorns.
Yeah.
Which their business model is one of their investments does the whole return for their entire fund, which means you have 99 companies that don't succeed with one that does, and that's not in reality really. It's fostering big innovations, which we need. We need those really big innovations, which is great, but most founders focus on being that unicorn when in reality they can start a really solid $5 million business.
Yes.
That is a legacy business for them and their family. And they don't need, they can bootstrap it. I found a really interesting, I did some data analysis on startups and entrepreneurs. This is a surprising stat. So the more money you raise, the more likely you are to blame running out of money as the reason why you failed. It's an inverse correlation. The companies that blame a lack of money for their failure, the companies that have blamed that the least are bootstrap companies.
Yeah.
I think it's really fascinating. So I'm over explaining this, but it's just, I don't think you need to think about investment capital for your first, second, or third company. You just don't. Just go start something if you really have the entrepreneurial spirit and do it as though you never are going to raise capital. And you'll probably go pretty far.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I'm glad I asked those questions because, it is almost a preconceived notion that we're going to start it up. We're going to get investment. We're going to do that, blah, blah, blah. And you're right. When you're not going to always have unicorns. We don't have hey, let's be honest. We don't have the prettiest babies in the world sometimes. And we still love them all day long. And it's just the thing that you said that was so telling is you could bootstrap a $5 million company all day that creates a nice legacy for you that you could exit, that you could then go on and do something else. And do it again if that's what you wanted to do.
99.99% of businesses don't need investment. They don't need it. So, but that's where all the energy comes from in the startup community. That's where all the energy is. It's where all the press is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're 100%. 100%. How many... You're going to? What's happening in Denver here coming up?
So on that note, yes. So every year Denver holds this event called Denver Startup Week. It's the middle of September. It's the largest. Well, I know it was the largest. I don't know if this is true anymore. It's the largest free entrepreneurial conference on the planet. It's an open air. So it's an open air, open venue conference. The original folks that started Denver Startup Week 10 years ago, who have kind of gone their separate ways over the years, are getting back this year to replan the community side of the event. So, How to Founder and me and Chris Franks, who's the other gentleman that does How to Founder with me, we're part of that group that's pulling. I'll say that Chris really kind of spearheaded this conversation and said, all right, let's all get back together and and bring Denver Startup Week back to its original glory. So we're doing some really fun events. We're doing some VIP leadership summits for founders. One of the events that I'm putting on that I'm really excited about is this event called Startup Garage. So think of it as like open mic night for founders, where you stand up, no pitch deck, you stand in front of a panel and just say, I have this idea. What do you think? I've done it a couple Denver Startup Weeks in the past, and it's so much fun. Most of the time, half of the people that stand up, they stand up to the mic and they say, I wasn't really planning on pitching this idea, but I have to get it out. And there's some that are just total train wrecks. There's some that are just brilliant. Actually, some companies that have come out of it that have been really great companies. So that we're revitalizing that this Denver Startup Week, and a lot of other events. And just follow us. If you're in Colorado or you're coming to it, just follow us on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/company/how-to-founder, and you'll get notified of all the events that we're doing.
Very good.
It's gonna be
very good. We'll make sure to do that, because that sounds like a blast, actually, to listen to people just pitch ideas, and not because there's an investor in the crowd and you're going to get money. It's just like, get feedback on my idea to be able to go, am I as crazy as I might have thought I am, or is it something am I crazy in the right way?
Right. Yeah. Right. It's a little scary and intimidating, but it's a friendly place. So
yeah.
You'll get honest feedback. You'll get honest feedback. I've done it in the past, and it's great fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So how much in your how to founder, one of the things that and it's been a few years since I've been around startup companies that much, but how much do you spend time with people talking about, when I was doing it, it was a lot around the investment, like you said, the VC groups, the other funding groups, angel groups, all these, they put together these big pitch fests or whatever you want to call them. And you look at these presentations and the decks that people are putting together, the books they're getting put together for these, and you go, how do you really logically think you're going to do what you're saying you're doing on paper when we talk about trying to raise money and this kind of stuff? How much do you talk with founders about that?
Go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. You know where I'm going.
Yeah, it's a really funny question. So the truth is, again, I'm going to go back to don't raise capital. Like, start there. But if you really want to raise capital and you want to do the whole product market fit, problem solution, customers, team kind of pitch deck, great. It's great fun. And the question is, how does an investor know how full of crap that founder is?
Yeah.
And the true answer is they don't. You don't. You don't. And in the really early pre-seed stage of investment, it's almost entertainment for early stage investors. They're there to be entertained and be along for the ride. So if you're pitching early stage angel investors, it's a lot less about don't get me wrong, they want to make a return on their money. Like that's absolutely it. But they want to have fun doing it. They want to be able to brag to their friends that they invested in this company. It's them being around entrepreneurs is fun, and they want to be around other entrepreneurs.
That's true.
Because it's enjoyable. Like, it reminds them of maybe when they were an entrepreneur and just starting out, but they don't have the energy to do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it needs to be a credible business and have a credible performa. But more importantly, you have to be likable and somebody that they would want to work with.
Yeah.
Or want to have a beer with you. And I hate the fact that that's true, but all my anecdotal evidence points to the fact that that is true.
Yes. I agree with you. That's part of it. Yeah. Cause I've seen some that, you know, books that are handed out on these things, and you go, how would you really, you know, hockey stick a business like that when it's a physical product business or something like that? And I think I think you're right though. You have to have, if the founder is the right founder and people like it, they're along for the ride to see if they can really do it.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of really bad businesses get funded because it was a really fun founder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where investors are like, I want to hang out with that person.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great, I mean, I think you're right. I think you're right there. But that's, yes. Yes. So you're excited for the Denver startup event.
Yes.
That is happening. You said when now?
Middle of September. I think it starts the I want to say the 12th of September. I could be wrong, but it's the middle of September.
All right. So if someone wants to get a hold of you, Anthony, about that, what the best way to get a hold of you, on LinkedIn or
LinkedIn is best. I'm just Anthony Franco on LinkedIn. Go to the How to Founder webpage. I'm one of the They're the howtofounder.com is way to get a hold of me, or linkedin.com/company/howtofounder. Follow us there. And then we also do a live semi-weekly podcast on Tuesdays and Thursdays where we talk about these very practical founder. And so I didn't mention the whole reason why we started How to Founder was the founder loneliness, but the podcast is really because Chris and I want to write a founder reference manual. Think of it like it's not a read through, like you're not going to read it cover to cover. It's like when I get in trouble, I open a chapter and read about the thing that I'm dealing with.
Yes.
So we wanted to write that book, but we don't love writing. So we decided to do a subject on How to Founder twice a week and have guests on and have subject matter experts on to help us. Essentially, we're going to take the transcripts, run it through AI, and help us write that chapter of the book.
Yeah.
So the podcast is very tactical, very tangible, executional advice on how to be a founder that we're eventually going to bring into a book. And we do that religiously now every Tuesday and Thursday morning.
Nice.
And we do that, and it's a live broadcast on LinkedIn. And again, follow us on that page, and you'll be alerted when we broadcast again.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure you're tagged in the event here, so we'll make sure that's there. We'll drop the links into How to Founder in the post as well when we finish up. Anything else you'd like to leave before we shut down here, Anthony, as to if someone is out there in the founder game now, they've got a company, they're rolling down the road, what would you like to tell them today?
My heart's with you. I love you. Like I'm in it with you, even though I don't know what you're doing. So first of all, you're not alone. Go find a founder community in your area. A great one that's national is 1 Million Cups. It's a great one to get involved in. It's a magnet for founders. So if you have one in your area, go to it. But there's certainly founder meetups in your area, and if there's not, you're a founder, go start one, or reach out to us and we'll help you build one in your community.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you here today, Anthony. Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate you stopping by and talking about how to be a great business founder, talking to us about the new company you've launched with How to Founder, talking about the Denver Startup Week and the things you guys are doing with them, and then just sharing your knowledge on, being now an 8X founder and the things you've learned. Thanks for being here today.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate you helping me get the word out a little bit here. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great to have you on today. And I want to thank Heather for stopping by today, and Ruth, and making sure we got Emmanuel. Thanks for stopping by today. I appreciate that. If you got in late on this, go back to the beginning, because Anthony was dropping a lot of great information for founders. And it started right out of the box when he said, do you really want to be a founder? Because you gotta be committed to this. And that's one of the first things he talks about with people. So thanks everyone for being here. We will be back again next week. Anthony, hang around just a moment and we'll finish up offline.
All right.